If you're getting traffic but not clients, you don't have a traffic problem, you have a conversion problem. Because traffic is everywhere now. Clicks are cheap, views are easy, leads are accessible, but clients, that's where most business break. In this video, I'll show you exactly why traffic isn't turning to clients and the system that fixes it. This is the same breakdown when consultants tell me, I'm getting leads, but nothing is closing. Let's break it down. Alright guys, let's talk about the illusion of traffic. You see, most people think their funnel looks like this. Traffic comes in, leads come in, and clients come out. Simple, but in reality, it looks like this. Traffic, leads, and then drop off, and then silence. Nothing goes on. You see, you're not losing money because your ads don't work. You're losing because nothing happens after the click. You already paid for the attention, you already earned the interest, and then you just leave it here. You see, professionals don't assume the problem is the traffic. They look what happens after interest is created. Bam. Because that's where the decisions are made. If the leads are coming in, but clients are coming out, that's not a traffic issue, that's a conversion system issue. Because this is the part most people miss. You're not far off, but the buyers are already here. They clicked, they engaged, and they showed interest, but you just didn't move them forward. Again, let me remind you, attention is not the business. It's what happens after attention is the business. Because you don't have a traffic problem, you have, hey, what happens next problem. Again, you're not missing leads, you're just losing them. Alright, then we move to cold traffic versus the warm buyers. You see, not all traffic the same. Cold traffic, there's no context, there's no trust, there's no reason to believe you. Again, they just found you. And what do most phones do? You just straight them straight to the call. You're gonna be like, this girl? Like, what the heck? And that's the message up. You're just asking someone who just discovered you to make a high ticket decision immediately. That's not a funnel, that's pressure. And pressure kills conversions, guys. And here's the belief gap. Buyers don't move from who are you to like, hey, take my money. They move in belief stages from awareness, understanding, trust, and certainty. And if those beliefs are in place, the decisions will feel risky. And risky decisions get delayed. So you won't be having this conversation over here. And let me show you the proper sequencing. And high ticket consulting requires progression. You don't rush the buyer, you have to guide them. From curious, informed, and confident. And only then do you invite them for a conversation. Let me remind you, cold traffic doesn't convert. Having warm buyers do. So if you're wondering why your calls feel hard, it's because the buyers showed up cold. Okay, and we move to interest to decision gap. And this is where most of your revenue is hiding. It's not at the top, it's not in the traffic, it's not in the clicks, and it's not even in the call. It's in the middle, the space between I'm interested and I'm ready. You see, most people skip this stage completely. They go attention and close, and bam, try to marry you on the first date. And then they wonder why this doesn't work. It's because you're trying to close before the buyer is even ready. Again, you're not trying to rush a date like here. You're gonna get resistance and they're gonna say no. Again, but this is the highest leverage stage in your funnel, but it's the one that most people ignore because they all focus on getting attention or closing the deal, but they skip the part that actually creates a sale. Again, you don't want to skip this part because buyers don't need more information. They need more certainty. Certainty that works for them, certainty that this is for them, and certainty that this solves their problem. And certainty isn't built instantly. It's built through repetition, reinforcement, and structured exposure. Remember, interest doesn't create clients, certainty does, and certainty is built in the middle. Yeah, so if your funnel jumps from interest to call, you're forcing the sell too early. You're gonna be like this guy trying to force himself on a girl on his date. And when you build the middle, you don't chase clients, they're gonna arrive ready to buy. Okay, and then we move to the bridge system. So how do we fix this? We built the bridge. You see, traffic comes in, but instead of sending them straight to a call, we're gonna route them to the bridge asset. And this whole bridge, it does the heavy lifting, explains your method, reframes the problem, builds trust, and aligns the buyer. So by the time they reach the call, they're not gonna be cold, they're gonna be ready. So if you're explaining everything on the call, your system's broken if you're doing this. Because the call, you shouldn't be doing the selling. The system should be already doing this. Yeah, so the decision doesn't happen on the call, guys. It happens before the call. Because the bridge is gonna install belief, certainty, and direction. You're gonna have clarity like this guy. Bam. So the call feels safe and not risky. And here, let me show you the proper sequence. In high ticket consulting, it's not about rushing people. It's about sequencing them. From curious, informed, and confident. Then the call becomes simple. You're not convincing, you're just confirming fit, taking the lead. Again, the bridge does all the selling, so the call doesn't have to. So you don't need better calls, you just need better pre-call judgment. So let me ask you something. How much traffic have you paid for that didn't turn to clients? And what will happen if even 20% more of that traffic converted? If you want help fixing that gap and installing a system that turns traffic into clients, go ahead and book a free one-on-one strategy call below, and I'll map it out for you. And then we move to system versus random funnel. Here's the difference. Most funnels are random. Traffic comes in, people click, some scroll, and they bounce and they leave. And then nothing happens. There's no structure, no progression, no next step, and no guidance. It's just all activity. Because if your funnel assumes trust before it exists, it'll always underperform. Because trust isn't automatic, it has to be built. Because buyers don't trust you just because they landed on your page. Because they trust you because the problem's clear, the method makes sense, and the outcome feels real. Because without that, they're gonna hesitate, and hesitation kills conversions. Okay, now look at this. Every step has a purpose. Content creates an interest, the asset builds an understanding, the trust develops, then the call happens, then the client. And this is what professionals build. A system that moves buyers from interest to understanding to confidence to decision. Which gonna lead to high ticket deals and you'll be like this guy, money in the bank, show me what you drink. Again, this is not randomly, but this is intentionally. Because random funnels, they just create activity, but systems, they create clients. So let me remind you, you guys don't need more traffic, you just need a system that moves people forward. And then we move to where the money is lost. You see, this is where most deals disappear. A lead comes in, they're interested, they click, and they're engaged. And then nothing happens. Yeah, because most businesses, they don't follow up, they don't stay visible, they don't stay relevant. So the buyer just forgets you, gets distracted, and just move on. Bam, lost deal.
I can't take this shit no more, man.
So silence doesn't mean they're not interested. It just means that you disappeared. And when you disappear, the opportunity disappears with you. And most buyers don't say no, they say not yet. Because their brain is still processing the risk, their timing, and their confidence. So they're gonna be contemplating like this guy right here. But having follow-up doesn't create pressure. It helps them complete their decision. But in the real system, the follow-up is automatic. Here you're getting email, SMS, content, and reminders all to stay present. And that's how the buyer doesn't forget you. Here they're gonna see your thinking from your frameworks and your solution until they're ready. You can be like Tony Robbins, activating their RAS, the Reticular Activation System. Because professionals don't rely on memory, they rely on systems. Because deals are really lost from the lack of interest. They're always lost from the lack of timing, and the follow-up bridges that gap. Again, the problem isn't your leads, it's your lack of follow-up. And then we move into the real problem. If you're not even getting clients even with traffic, it's not because the traffic doesn't work, it's because your system is incomplete. You see, you guys are generating attention, but you're not converting it because nothing happens after the click. So there's no bridge, so the buyer never understands your method. And there's no trust layer, so they never feel confident enough to move forward. And there's no follow-up, so they disappear before they ever decide. So every one of these is missing belief. So no bridge, no understanding. No trust layer, no certainty. No follow-up, no timing. And without those, the buyers will never decide. So this isn't a traffic issue, it's a structure issue. Because a real client acquisition system educates, builds trust, and guides the decisions. And yours stops too early. You won't be having this. So it's not that people aren't interested, it's just that nothing is moving them forward. And this is why you're losing them. So if you want this fixed and actually turn your traffic into clients, go ahead and book a free one-on-one strategy call below. We'll map out your funnel, your authority layer, and your conversion system. So your traffic actually produces revenue. Alright? I'll see you in the next video. Jeremy out.